I tell you something that might surprise you? I am an introvert. I was a professional singer for more than 10 years, and I now work as a professional keynote speaker who has stood up in front of audiences of up to 3,000 people. These things are not contradictions, and if that surprises you, I gently suggest that you might be carrying some assumptions about what introverts can and can't do. Assumptions that, frankly, if I say it myself, are rubbish. Some of the best entertainers, performers, speakers, and people who really need to go big from time to time, maybe politicians, people in the public eye, are introverts. So if you are one and you've been telling yourself that you therefore don't have permission to take on certain roles, then please do not listen to that voice. And let me be direct about something before we go any further, because I've spoken to enough introverts to know that this matters. Not all introverts lack confidence. Not all of us are shy. Not all of us struggle to speak up. When I asked introverts what kind of support they were looking for, one person came back genuinely upset, even angry, at the very suggestion that introverts are less capable. And I completely understand that person's reaction. The introvert as a wallflower narrative is not only inaccurate, it's unhelpful. Some of the most compelling, assured people I've worked with are introverts. What introversion actually means is that we tend to draw energy from within rather than from the crowd. We often do our best thinking alone. Large social gatherings can drain us in a way that they don't drain extroverts. That's the actual definition. It's not about being timid or incapable or lacking presence. So if I talk about introverts needing support with communication, I want to be clear what I mean. It's not that we're fundamentally unable. It's that so much workplace communication is designed around extroverted behaviour, extroverted personalities. And that creates friction for a lot of introverts who are perfectly capable, but they find certain situations unnecessarily challenging. I'm an introvert who was put on probation in my first job and let go after 6 months in my second. Not because I wasn't working hard, not because I wasn't capable. Both of those times, the reason was essentially the same. I wasn't speaking up. I wasn't influential enough. I wasn't putting my ideas forward in a way that got me noticed. And that wasn't really about being an introvert. It was about not really having the tools at the time, and in some cases being in environments that were set up more for extroverts. Sometimes people ask whether introversion is a case of nature or nurture. A way that I personally answer that question is that as a young child, I was actually very chatty. My school reports always said, talks too much. But I could also disappear into a book for hours without needing anyone around. When I was 11, I moved to live with my birth parents because I'd been fostered from the age of about 3 months up till the end of primary school. And at that point, I would say that things changed a bit for me, and I had to become more self-sufficient, and at the same time, I became a bit more inward focused. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with inward focus, but when I entered the workplace in my 20s, that version of me came at a cost in environments that rewarded visibility. Eventually, I found my own way, and after a few years in a corporate career, I decided to take singing lessons, and then I eventually summoned up the courage to become a professional singer. And I was self-employed and travelled the country singing on my own, singing with bands, and I loved it. While I was doing that, I joined a speaking club and discovered that with structure and practice, I could communicate with real confidence. Not just songs, but also speeches, and not by becoming someone else, but by learning what to say and how to say it in a way that suited me. Eventually, I became a professional speaker, working with organisations around the world and sometimes speaking in front of thousands of people. None of that required me to stop being an introvert. Instead, it required me to have the right tools. To be effective in front of others, fortunately, doesn't require you to dominate the room. You don't have to interrupt people constantly. You don't have to have a performative kind of energy that doesn't come naturally to you. You just need to know what to say and when, and also you need to have confidence. Having a well-structured presentation or a simple speaking framework in your head to guide you can do a lot of the heavy lifting. In the background at the moment, I'm working on a book called How to Be an Unstoppable Introvert, and it won't be out for a while, probably not for the next year or two. And that one goes a lot deeper into the strategies that I've used personally and that other introverts have used to be successful in their careers. And it also weaves in some of my own story. My experience, both my own and from working with others for years, is that the gap for most introverts isn't confidence, it's tools. When you have a clear framework for sharing an idea or pushing back in a meeting or telling a story that makes your point stick, you don't need to borrow someone else's energy. You just need to know the shape of what you're going to say and be confident in who you are. And that's something, fortunately, anyone can learn. Thanks for listening and see you next week.